Hurricane Idalia slamming into the Florida coast this morning, bringing life-threatening storm surge and winds gusting up to 85 miles per hour in Perry, ripping apart this billboard. Christian De La Rosa from our affiliate WPLG, right in the thick of it.
Again, we've been talking about the storm surge in neighborhoods close to the water that's expected to be non-survivable.
The Tampa Bay area streets inundated. Idalia now weakening, but authorities fear catastrophic damage in the Big Bend area. People in at least 30 Florida counties placed under evacuation orders.
We just hope everybody stays safe. Don't put your life at risk.
The National Weather Service calling Idalia an unprecedented event, since no major hurricanes on record have ever passed through the region. The powerful Category 4, a hurricane large enough to see from space, this man using a broom, trying to push back the water from overtaking his home. On the barrier island of Cedar Key, homes are boarded up. The governor says the city could see up to 13 feet of storm surge. Michael Bobbitt riding out the storm overnight in the home he rebuilt that's 117 years old.
Wonder if this is the last night that I get to sleep in this beautiful old house.
3:15 a.m. and the surge is coming. 10 minutes ago it was dead calm, and now all hell is broken loose. It's 3:45 a.m. The Gulf is literally rising up to swallow Dock Street. I don't know how we can possibly make it through the night.
Hurricane Idalia continues to weaken as it makes its trek across Florida's Big Bend. The powerful storm has already triggered life-threatening storm surge and high winds. The National Weather Service in Tallahassee called the storm an unprecedented event for this area. We want to go ahead and bring in David Begnaud, who is in Crystal River, Florida, where, David, we just continue to see that water rising.
Jamie, if you look behind me, actually, this morning, I'd say 3 hours ago, the water was on the other side of that tree line. It has come closer to our hotel room where we're standing. I'd say it's up about 3 feet. It's got another 7 or 8 to go before it's in the hotel room. So hopefully that doesn't happen.
This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. Some strange weather events happening down in Florida. Catastrophic hurricane, direct targets. You've seen the videos that I've previously uploaded in the last few days about this hurricane. You've probably seen a lot of the videos I've done on weaponized weather and HARP. And this looks like it's clearly one of those things. Now, after everything that just occurred in Maui and then following Maui over in California, which of course wasn't as devastating as Maui, but weather phenomena, that's the common theme. Things we've never seen before. Records, 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 records. That's all we keep hearing about, of course, which is just almost like when we hear these drills that happen at these schools or at these Dollar Generals, etc. We hear common themes every time about skin color, about race, about what weapon was used, about having manifestos in place after the fact. Those are all common things we can hear. We can know, okay, this is a controlled operation here because it's got the same themes, right? The person responsible for the event's always dead after the fact. Those are all common themes, right? The same thing we're hearing now with the weaponized weather. The same theme. Catastrophic, record-breaking, unlike anything we've ever seen before. And then, of course, they give us a date, like in California of 1939 was the last time an event even came close to this. So we're supposed to, again, believe that this is because of climate change, because they have their boogeyman in place for them to weaponize the weather against us. And there's some strange things going on in Florida that haven't been seen before, such as a hurricane of this magnitude, as well as the storm surges that are coming, which is what you really got to watch out for. The storm surge after the fact. A lot of people don't even realize that in Katrina, the storm surge that came after the actual pounding from the hurricane was about 28 feet tall and wiped out Louisiana. And of course, they, at the time when people were questioning weaponized weather then, the media already had their story in place. Again, every story they go with, they have in place by design. They're not doing it because they want to turn on the presidents who, obviously, they're all working together, right, to create these events and then to cover up these events that they do. So when that happened in Katrina, of course, the narrative that came out of it was all about George Bush and about how he knew before it was coming and he didn't warn the people there because he doesn't like black people. This is just stuff that they do to take your attention away from these topics and these types of storms and the catastrophe that surrounds it. We even saw in Maui that it was just becoming so obvious of what was occurring that the mainstream media just started to stop covering the story, and they're not even giving you the accurate number of lives lost. Well, here in Florida, we're seeing the same narratives again, like in Louisiana with the record fires, on fires we've never seen before, never even heard of it, never knew it was fathomable or possible. Now in Florida, we're seeing this. So storm surges, not as high, they're saying so far, as what we saw in Katrina, but they are saying that over 300,000 people as of now are without power. People are being told to evacuate. That's going to take a long time to clean up, blah, 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 uninhabitable. All these are just common things that we hear, like the land is now, unusable land all of a sudden, right? We hear it's not inhabitable for months, right? So they obviously have plans in place to wipe these places out, to wipe the people out of these places, herd them into FEMA for lots of reasons other than the obvious. Of course, smart cities play into all of this stuff. And this is going to just be a common thing we see over and over and over again with direct targets. Like yesterday when I covered it, they talked about how it was a direct hit. It's going to be a direct hit in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg, another place expecting massive storm surges. But let's start with this. If you didn't see this video clip, which if you want to look at this and you want to say, well, it's weaponized weather, well, you have to look for strange phenomena. You can't just automatically say, hey, it's a hurricane. We're going to say that it's HARP. We're going to say that it's them doing it, even though they're calling cards and all these things, right? There's meetings about these things like in Maui beforehand, then they happen. The calling card is always record breaking, and then they blame it on the climate. But look for things that are very suspicious that you don't normally see. Here's a video from a pilot who recorded what some call St. Elmo's fire, not the movie with Rob Lowe and Demi Moore, but St. Elmo's fire, a phenomenon of a ridiculous amount of energy in the electromagnetic field. Electromagnetic current is so high that it would cause something like this. But we also know, as I'll show you in a few minutes, that they can trigger lightning using lasers and rockets. Yeah, lasers, there's that word again. But take a look at this and tell me that this looks normal. So obviously nothing about that looks normal. Now, it's very easy for them to create lightning. I mean, we all know that the HARP machine is cranked up. We know that they have the ability to do this. They show us this stuff on small scales all the time on these shows that show you science experiments, right? I showed in a previous video how they were doing a model like, I mean, it's unbelievable, really. They're practicing these things, because they're practicing so they can learn from it, so they can warn people about it. So they have these hurricane machines that they tell you that they're using so that they can get an idea of how it works. Yeah, they want an idea of how it works and how they can actually control it better so they can hit the direct targets better. And that's why they do these on small scales. And then, of course, they pretend like we would never do it on a large scale. What do you think? We're monsters? Oh, no, you're not monsters. You're only trying to poison everybody. But anyway, here's just a basic video, of course, conveniently done in Florida, an experiment about how they can trigger lightning. And look at those laser beams. They look oddly familiar. So they tell you they could shoot rockets in the air, but it obviously looks a lot like a laser. So we know they have the ability to do these types of things. The Lightning Research Laboratory of Florida. Okay, what do you think all these things exist for, right? Because there's just fans of lightning. Now, of course, we all know about lightning and the symbolism of lightning. In Luke chapter 10, verse 18, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Again, I've covered this a million times with lightning. That doesn't correlate necessarily with this as far as the symbolism of lightning, but it's worth mentioning when you see lightning bolts all the time with people like AC/DC and Marilyn Manson. It's not because they love storms, but for all of us who have seen lightning storms and all these things, something like I just showed you is not normal. And of course, having the ability to create this is something that people should understand, that they don't just create these laboratories because they want and are fascinated by lightning like these celebrities are because, of course, they worship Lucifer. They do it because they're practicing to use it as a weapon. That's why. They're not trying to learn about it so that they can say, hey, look, we learned all about lightning. Okay, so if you've learned all about hurricanes and all these storms and all these departments that we have, agriculture, etc., that do these experiments, well, why don't you, tell us what you're learning all this stuff for? Because you've already used it with Operation Popeye in Vietnam when you've flooded people out. So we could never possibly imagine you would try to flood people out here in the United States of America when you hate us so much and you tell us how much you hate us every single day by taking our tax money and burning it on fire and giving it to freak shows who don't need it, who want to castrate, etc., and of course calling us all terrorists. So you would never, ever, 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 ever do this on a large scale, would you? Oh, right, you would. So what needs to be monitored now with this hurricane is what we see in the aftermath. What's going to happen with these storm surges? There's obviously already been a lot of damage done. They haven't really said there's many casualties, but at the same time, they aren't going to play into the casualty part of it yet because, well, they're playing into the whole get ready for a storm surge. And when they tell you to get ready, well, that means get ready for one because they can easily create these storm surges very easily by whipping up winds. And if those of you that don't know what a storm surge is,
storm surge is sea level rise on top of the normal tide level. The rise in sea level is created by low pressure systems, including tropical cyclones, as they near the coast. If storm surge arrives during low tide, coastal impacts may be minor. If, however, storm surge arrives during a high tide, the impacts can be much more severe. The large waves accompanying low pressure systems can make coastal and structural damage much worse. Storm surge, combined with large waves, can reach areas far away from the coast. Strong low pressure systems, especially tropical cyclones, create storm surges by physically pushing the water onshore. The stronger the winds, the higher the storm surge. Large storm surges can push water many kilometers inland, which, combined with wind and pounding waves, can destroy buildings, wash away roads, and pose threat to life.
So storm surges are obviously something that can easily be done, easily be created. The type of technology they have is just unfathomable. Again, you can't even comprehend the stuff that they've created and the weapons that they use against us. We know that they use psychological weapons against us all the time, but they're using weaponized weather now with the scapegoat in place. They know everybody will automatically regurgitate, repeat what they say. So now that they're doing it, they're just coming out and they're going, you can't deny climate change. Look what's happening in Maui. Look what's happening here. And everybody who's there in Maui has clearly stated it was a direct energy weapon. I don't know anybody there from any videos I've seen that's actually buying into the narrative. And whatever liberals they had there that were so hive-minded might have actually snapped out of their programming once they actually saw what happened there and actually experienced it and might actually be waking up from it. Because Maui's like another one of these events, like September 11th, like others that have occurred before, that people could use to actually wake up and snap out of this, because the narrative they give is so bogus. The stories of people getting blocked in. We're in the same thing in Florida, right? The same thing. People are getting barricaded in. They're getting blocked in. Roads are closed in Florida. Conveniently, some have trees down, power lines down. Okay, that can naturally occur, but they're still blocking roads for people to escape and evacuate. And on top of that, they had the gasoline problem where they contaminated the gas so people couldn't fill up their tanks and leave. So you tell me, are those all coincidences, just like the people weren't allowed to leave in Maui? And the storms that you're seeing, the weird lightning storm you're seeing in the sky, does that look like something that's naturally occurring? I don't think so. For anybody out there that thinks these are naturally occurring at the speed, the rampant speed that they are week after week, hurricane after hurricane, hurricane, Wildfire. What, we'll get a week off next week? What are you going to hit us with? Some tornadoes in Kentucky, and we'll probably hit tornadoes in New York City for all we know at this point, because they clearly know they can get away with saying it's climate change. So they probably could just wipe out a city with a Sharknado tornado. And I can say Sharknado as a joke, obviously, but I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's like a Sharknado. It's a tornado on steroids that'll probably sweep through. I wouldn't be surprised if there were sharks in the tornadoes. People would still believe it was climate change. Oh yeah, the tornado came off the ocean. It took some dolphins and some sharks in it, and it went right through Manhattan. And these people would believe it. So, bizarre lightning storm surge underway. They're telling us to prepare. As of me recording this, it's just begun, the storm surging. So we'll see what gets wiped out. And of course, Georgia is another place that's being targeted down there. And I believe South Carolina, North Carolina area as well. So we'll see what comes of this, what places are damaged, what places are flooded out. Because this is an easy way for them, again, to build these smart cities, to implement their technology all over the place. And of course, uproot people, drag them into FEMA camps. And then when they tell you that something needs to be mandated again, you're going to FEMA camp, you got no home, you got no food, you got no water. It's going to be very easy for people to get tricked into taking something because they're going to have nowhere to go. So these are all part of their sick, diabolical plan. I'll continue to update about this in the coming hours, coming days, as we see what comes from it. But let me know what you think of the bizarre lightning storm that, of course, they'll tell you is just a natural occurrence known as St. Elmo's fire, when the electrical field gets so out of control that just happens, right? And what do we know can create and make the electrical field so out of control? Oh, yeah, that machine they created in Alaska that they tell us is just for fun. And that cost a lot of money. And it's all, oh yeah, and they tell us it's turned off too. Right, absolutely. Absolutely. Got to be born yesterday to believe what these people tell you. But it's another record-breaking day. Every day is a record-breaking day with climate change. Easy way to wipe out North America. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're doing well. Pray for the people affected by this and their families. And God bless all of you as well and your families.